What is the goal of life? What is the purpose of development? Why do we pursue the best versions of ourselves? What is the means to the end? You have to understand that the only purpose of existence is expansion. Since the beginning of the universe exploded, and there it has done nothing but expand. When we look at human history and civilization, all it did was fucking expand. And so when we look at you as an individual, when you continue to shrink yourself, when we look at you and evaluate who you are through your conduct, which decreases you as an individual through time, to rot away and decay your character as we progress in time, to have a timeline of mediocrity that consists of nothing but distraction, persisting in the endeavors that leave you emptier than before. And so what we do when we personally develop ourselves into the best version of self, when we mold our life to reflect the internal higher qualities that we cultivate through the daily habits that excel and accelerate our development and put us on a trajectory in a direction like a fucking rocket filled with fuel going into outer space, going to reach the destination of where we need to go in the right time. And so most of you guys shrink yourself for people around you. You want to conform, you want to change your identity, you want to be something you're not to conform and perform someone's fucking narrative about you. And so what you do is you change who you are to fit other people's narrative, and then you sit there and you extract the validation because you need to feel whole about yourself. You see, the only thing that's going to fucking validate you in life, and what your soul knows deep down, is the way you conduct yourself. And so the way you feel about yourself is a direct reflection of the way you behave. And so when you behave at a high level, when you disintegrate all lower qualities and you integrate all higher qualities, and you integrate the shadow aspects of yourself, the pieces of yourself that you refuse to accept, the pieces of yourself that you refuse to change, that need to change because you know you need to change them, you have to understand that when you extract validation from the external environment and you use that as a stimuli to feel whole about yourself, you will be left emptier than before. And so when we look at all these people with all these addictions, we have to understand that this is abnormal behavior. When we look at all these people who are addicted to social media, who are addicted to porn, who are addicted to vape, who are addicted to weed, you have to understand this is abnormal. You guys are so fucking abnormal, you normalize what is abnormal. And so now we have to look at your character. Now we have to speculate on who the fuck you are and who the fuck you became through time. And then we come to the evaluation that you are a waste of life. You have to understand that the way you treat yourself is a direct reflection of your worth. And so if you're okay with wasting your time, well, you have to understand that your time is the resource of your life. And so if you're going to waste your time, that means you're a waste of life, because you're wasting your time, you're wasting your life. And so we have to truly understand that if you're not going to expand, well, don't be surprised when you compromise and shrink yourself for other people and then remain on this endless cycle of shrinking smaller and smaller and smaller. And so you have to understand that when you expand to certain levels of power, personal empowerment, people will want to shrink you. They can't look at you, they can't be in your presence without seeing what they're not. They have to reflect now. The inadequacies surface when you are in the presence of a whole individual. Now you have to see where you lack. Now you have to reflect on your existence. Where have you fucked up? And so the thing about you guys is you use that as a source of fuel. Now you have a direct mirror, a direct reflection of what you have to change about yourself. Now you can navigate yourself to higher levels of existence. Some people cannot confront themselves, and this is going to reflect in the way they behave in your presence. Some people can simply not exist in the presence of something bigger and better. When you see a Ferrari, you have to shrink the Ferrari and say it's rented. When you see a penthouse, you have to shrink the penthouse, you have to say it's rented or it's an Airbnb. When you see a body that is nicer than yours, you now have to shrink the body, it's steroids. And so now we have to look at you as an individual and realize that anything that is at a higher quality than you and is reflecting higher qualities than what you possess, you instantly try to shrink to what you are. Because you have to understand that your perception can only perceive what you are, because your perception is you. And so the way you perceive reality is a direct reflection of yourself. The world is not as it is, the world is as you are. And so if all you do is indulge in these lower quality negative habits, well, your perception is going to reflect the low quality negative perception. And so when you see anything that is high quality and positive, this is now a contrary to your perception. And so you're going to perceive this as a threat and an enemy to your self-image, because you have built your self-image on escaping yourself and lying to yourself out of the truth of yourself, which is that you are a low-level piece of shit bitch. And if you don't do some shit to fix some shit, you will contort, distort, and continue this process of a low-level piece of shit until you hit the casket. And so when we look left and when we look right, this is the state that people exist in. And so they're so low level that they pretend to be high level. They're so low level that now when they drink, it's a validation thing. They're so low level that when they go out to party and they sit there and passively kill themselves and poison themselves through any substances that they can get their hands on, when they sit there and try to escape themselves through other people and then use them as a dopamine extraction to simply fuck them and pretend like that is not an individual with feelings, a mind, and an actual fucking soul, we have to understand that these people, they normalize objectifying people. And so you have to understand that that's a direct reflection of you. The reason you can do that is because you don't see yourself. You guys look in the mirror and all you see is a bunch of mist covering who you really are. You guys are shadows of what you could have been. You have to understand the way your mind works. And it begins with who you are. You guys neglect the responsibility to confront who the fuck you are. And so this manifests as a shadow self. You guys are living as fucking shadows. Your behavior is a direct correspondent to the shadow within yourself. You have to understand that when you reject aspects of yourself, you now create a shadow to avoid it. And so when you look in the mirror and you don't like the body you have, when you look in the mirror and you see that you have flaws that you can't change, when you look in the mirror and you see the flaws that you refuse to embrace or change, well, you have to understand that this is going to manifest as a shadow tension. And through that shadow tension is going to manifest malice behavior, which is a direct reflection of who you're becoming because you refuse to confront and change or embrace what you cannot change. And so most of you guys live in a constant state of insecurity. You have no security. You have no internal worth. You don't manufacture a higher quality self to reflect a higher essence, a higher quality of existence for yourself. You guys go through life and you sequence yourself on an endless cycle of being a low-level piece of shit until you fucking die. And so what you have to truly do is confront yourself at all levels. You have to truly look at yourself in the mirror and ask, is that what the fuck you were born to be? And then you come to the conclusion that it's not. And then when you realize that it's not, now you have actually an opportunity to do some shit, to fix some shit. Because most of you guys lack the awareness and the clarity to actually construct a higher quality self and to navigate yourself to higher quality outcomes. And so you question everyone but yourself. You question the person who shows up with more confidence than you. You question everything but yourself. You question the person who has more money than you. You question everything but yourself. You question the person who can do more, has a higher capacity and ability to get shit done than you. You question everything but yourself. You have to question yourself. And what you see in other people, you also need to reflect on that. Because what you see in other people, if it's not righteous, if it's opinionated, you have to understand that that's a direct reflection of your internal emotional state. And most of you guys exist in a state of chaos. And so when you perceive something and you instantly project a negative internal emotion onto that, well, that is a direct reflection of what you are ontologically being and moving through existence. That emotion is what you are. Because when we strip you down to what the fuck you are, you're just electricity, a brain, and a spine. And so most of you guys are so egoic, you have identified with the individual in the mirror who has simply been programmed and created through social conformity and programming of literal matrix. You have to understand that you have not created that individual in the mirror. That is not intentional. You did not set forth a will. You're not in alignment with your will. That individual in the mirror is a accumulation, a conglomeration of validation, extraction, conformity, and changing oneself to match the context of the people around to feel accepted. And so this is why you have to understand no one's going to accept you as much as you'll accept yourself. No one's going to love you more than you love yourself. And so if you cannot change who you are, well, you're going to have to extract as much validation from the people that don't even validate themselves at the highest level. You have to understand that what you're doing is just feeding off someone for wholeness energy. What you have to do, again, is confront yourself, accept yourself, and change what the fuck you need to change to be a higher quality thing. And so you really have to open a notebook and ask yourself, was that shit intentional? What do you do that is intentional? You have to understand that your entire life is an illusion. Your entire fucking life is an illusion and a distraction. The only way you guys can exist without... Bro, you guys are on the brink of literal self-demolition. And most of you guys exist in a state of self-demolition. When you pick up a bottle, you have to understand that that is a underlying motive to passively kill yourself. When you pick up a vape, you have an underlying motive and an intent to passively kill yourself. You are speeding up your way to the casket, and you don't comprehend the velocity of that. You simply pick up a vape and smoke, buzz, like a fucking retard, like an imbecile, like a person with 21 IQ, not realizing you're passively killing yourself. And so we have to really comprehend the level of your stupidity, and then we need to do some shit to change some shit. And so every day you have the opportunity to pursue your power. Every day you had the opportunity to expand, and every day you had the opportunity to grow as an individual. But most of you guys rather distract yourself, retract, subtract through time, and you guys rather sit there and use people who don't even validate themselves at the highest level to validate you. And then the people who are validating you are really just validating themselves, and it's an exchange, and this is what you call a friendship. This is what you call a relationship. And so most of you guys live in a state of insidious illusions, and the best thing to do is just simply ask yourself, was that shit intentional? Was your existence intentional? Was that what the fuck you were born to be? Or is that what the fuck society told you to be, and now you perform their context like a fucking circus clown, zoo animal, putting on a show, performing for validation as you walk on the stage of life, sitting there like a bitch until you fucking die? Or are you going to become the individual to simply point where you are going to go and divinely anoint yourself, point your will to what the fuck you'll become? Wake up every fucking day and expand into that individual instead of a stage of performance. Life is now an arena. Are you going to wake up every day and you're going to conquest to be the best version of you? Are you going to pick up a sword and annihilate anything that seems to desperately need to get in your path to derail you from what the fuck you need to accomplish? Are you going to be the individual to sit there every day and try to extract validation from likes, comments, and if anything, these people are just seeking the attention from you anyways? It's an exchange. Most of you guys are so empty, and it reflects in your behavior. And so what you need to do is truly reflect on who you are and who you're becoming through time. And every day you need to wake up and do something more. That bitch